All right, greetings. So this is going to be short. I don't think the sound came through in the last video. So, quick share is just some signs that you are in a cult. And I want to just give a particular, I don't know if I want to say a shout out or just wanted to make note of the anonymous people that will come on these various pages. You know, the internet used for all kind of stuff. And the folks that have the anonymous avatars with no name, and they come with words of hotep and brother and sister, and they make all kinds of comments, and um, either they're cronies or followers of the cult leaders, because they're obviously defending the cult leader and giving their rendition of what they think happened. So either they've lived in the cult, or they're just somebody at random that's making their assessment. Now, mind you, I lived in and had an experience. And as I've said before, my experience is not up for debate. I'm also a mature adult that can think for myself. So there's some signs that you're in a cult. If you have 2+ degrees and you find yourself in a foreign country, and you have to sit with a bowl and you have to ask for donations. And when you live on about, numerous, maybe about 99 acres of land, but you have to beg, or ask for donations in another country where the working wage for most people is about $4 an hour, if not less, US. Those are signs you're in a cult. You've got several degrees, but you find yourself, you know, having to ask for donations on the road in another country. That's a sign, a very clear sign that you're in a cult. If you're between 16, 17, 18, young adult, and if there are women that are grooming you in preparation to provide pleasure and serve food in all different manners to someone that's about 56 years older than you, right? That's a cult. If you're being groomed specifically by older women to pleasure an old man who's, no offense, whose testicles, for whatever reason, are almost to the level of dragging on the ground, and you're being groomed to pleasure him and serve him food, that's a sign that you're in a cult. And, as I've said before, a manipulator, in particular a cult leader, has a way that they deal with men, and they have a way that they deal with women in terms of exploiting and triggering emotional traumas, insecurities, and fears. And I want to make note out there for the men that come with commentaries and their keyboard analysis of the situation. Again, my experience, my family's experience of living in some place for almost 2 years. It's not up for debate. I'm not asking for validation. I'm not asking for advice. I'm sharing my experience for the benefit of those who would like to educate themselves, particularly young people. And perhaps there are some young men so they can avoid this. And perhaps there are some fathers that will take responsibility to educate their children. There are things that we can do to neutralize and avoid these cults. And a lot of it boils down to being accountable and responsible, which is something that cults and cult members never are. When you ask a direct question and your question is met with questions and lots of talking in circles and rhetoric, that is a sign that you're in a cult. If there's a lack of transparency, if you don't know people's legal names, this is a sign that you are in a cult. Somebody that's playing on your fears. Anyone that tells you you cannot survive, in the world, that's a cult. If somebody's playing and trying to guilt trip you into being into a relationship and you're allowing them to arrange your relationship for you because you're so scared that you don't qualify to choose a mate for yourself, that's a sign that you're in a cult. When someone's asking you to surrender your bank accounts and telling you to just trust the high priest, that's a sign that you're in a cult. And I'm going to say it, and let me make myself very, very crystal clear that as a woman, as a mother, as a feminine presence, there's nothing more feminine than defending myself and inflicting a consequence, which I am quite prepared to do. So let's not get it twisted. I'll make myself very clear for the keyboard warriors out there. This is an education channel. If the information doesn't resonate with you, if you prefer to go to this cult and have your own experience, be my guest. But our experience is not up for debate. We're not asking for validation at all, and are very well prepared. And I'm encouraging people, in particular, women, out of love for ourselves, which has far-reaching, um, it's going to go a long way. There must be a consequence. Again, I will say legal, financial, and physical to anyone that is a threat to your well-being. There's nothing more spiritual, and there'll be accountability, and there will be accountability when you say so. So until you have the guts to get up, it's like walking out of an abusive relationship. Nobody can pull you out. You'll have to get up and walk for yourself. And again, for those male keyboard warriors that come under the guise of hotep and peace and brother and sister, watch, because these are words, and quite often they're trigger words that are used to make people feel like somebody's going to be your family. These people have not been vetted. They've not been vetted. They don't even show their faces, online. Also be aware that people with a lot of different types of mental illnesses. Granted, lots of the population, human beings, encounter trauma in some form of their life. But you know what? You're mature enough to find the assistance and, you know, the healing, whatever word you want to use. You can work to apply corrective action and put those things into perspective for yourself. There's enough information, there's enough movement therapy, there's enough healthy food, there's enough for you to do those things and to seek out assistance. But be careful of who you're going to and asking for help, because you quite often won't know their agenda. Somebody that's asking you to put all your decision making in their hands is suspect. Again, a sign that you're in a cult. When someone tells you that you're not strong enough to talk to your own son and your own family members, that's a sign that you're in a cult. If you have to take all of your cards and all of your wealth, not to say, again, we have choices. But when somebody's telling you to surrender that so that you can live inside of a bus with lots of people for over 10 years, that's signs that you're in a cult. So that's just a little share, and I really invite men folk to consider this. This may brush against some folks' egos. I do understand with the father figure, and I get the importance of seeing ourselves represented as males and females, and we're holding on to these figureheads. But whether they be the heads of churches or synagogues, whatever their religions are, these are flawed human beings, and to put all of your common sense and your decision making in their hand is a recipe for being taken advantage of financially, emotionally, mentally, and everything else that comes, along with it. All of this is out here for us to see. But especially when it comes to the grooming, and this is one of the things, again, I'm going to say to the men folks, if someone can make you turn a blind eye because you're a male, and you will turn a blind eye to when in front of you, you're seeing somebody 16, 17 years old, or whatever, you might not even know the age because none of the information is told to you. Everything is secretive. And you can turn a blind eye to an old man manipulating a young woman. You're in a cult. When somebody has to ask a grown man a question, and a grown adult male has to answer, well, let me speak to the high priest, I can't say anything, that's a sign that you're in a cult. So folks, wake up and you use your common sense. Romanticizing culture, it's, people will take these words and twist them for their convenience in order to manipulate you and change the meanings of basic words at will to manipulate you. Men can be manipulated just as well as women because we want to belong to something so bad. We want our lives to have purpose so bad, but it's for you to give your life purpose. Anything that asks you to surrender your common sense. It's unfortunate that a lot of the aspects of our traditional culture are being made to be very cult like. And so, whether it's vanilla or chocolate, manipulation and deviancy is manipulation and deviancy. I invite you to use your critical thinking and your common sense and not to give things a pass because they look like you, because it's a key way to how you are basically being played. So, just a quick share for today. Those are signs. Greetings. Those are signs that you. Those are clear signs. I don't come on here and I don't say everything. You know, we have to be out here. Do consider there are people's safety to consider while people are being entertained, running from channel to channel, and then going from this guru to this spiritual group to it's the time of accountability to be accountable and responsible for yourself and be accountable and responsible to the young people that are around you, you know, because we're addicted to gurus and to saviors. You know, they cannot take away the responsibility for yourself and the consequences for you putting your life and your decision making in other people's hands. I think it's very unfortunate the manipulation of young men that's going on because they need father figures. But you know what? Sometimes you may just have to father yourself or to mother yourself, because these are flawed human beings out here. And some of them, when it comes to narcissists, they're beyond flaws. That's a whole nother level of a personality without any kind of conscience whatsoever. So again, I'm going to drive home. Signs you're in a cult. If you've got several degrees and you have to be in another country with a bowl asking for donations, and the folks that are asking for donations are sitting on 99 acres of land that they supposedly own for I don't know how many years, signs you are in a cult. If you find yourself having to overlook the treatment of young women and prepare them for an old man, that's signs that you're in a cult. When you can turn a blind eye to that. And if your family members, should it be family members of people still within the cult, understand you're being played as well, because your adult child, your adult offspring or child is inside of a cult. This is also used as leverage against you, because often the parents just want to see their adult children safe. They just want to see them safe. So you'll wind up turning a blind eye. And this is how these cults get credibility. The more people they have and the more you turn a blind eye and you don't speak up, it gives credibility. So it looks like it's okay. And this is how other people go and say, well, if these educated people in there are in there with several degrees, then it must be okay. But this is how slowly but sure the community, through not speaking up, gives the cult a pass. And this has happened with numerous communities. Look at Osho. Look at, I mean, they're you know, I've read some of these books and it all seems so positive. Even, you know, when I investigated somebody talking about the purple people, it sounds like it's crazy. But would you believe it? You know, it actually exists. And I could tell you they are all, the patterns are carbon copies. When I listen to some of these cult leaders and when I've done my research, I'm like, wow, it sounds like the exact same person because the patterns are clear and distinct. So yes, you know, that women, we have stuff to deal with too in terms of turning a blind eye. But I'm going to say this, and I'm going to put this out there to the men folk that are out there. When you can overlook women being abused and somebody getting you to go out and ask others, you know, for money as young men, people that you don't have a relationship with, and you can turn greetings, and when you can turn a blind eye to the misuse of young women by an old man, you're in a cult. It's unfortunate. And maybe some of these people in the cult, they won't even have access to the computer because all their movements are monitored. You know, if you would just open your eyes to see and use your common sense and your critical thinking. I invited people, go and just look at not all the videos, because they'll start to play on your insecurities, your desires, your fears. There was one video, and I said it way back. Go and look at the video that says, you know, how did you become a quote unquote high priest? And listen to the answer. Listen 3 times and see if it makes sense for you. You know, there's several of those videos that I'm in the video. So I don't even say anything. Probably people don't critically think and they make snap judgments, you know. So this is how stuff can be playing out right in front of your face and people don't pick up on it. It goes right over people's heads. Can social justice organizations? Yes, we are in an age of cults. Social justice organizations, so-called, they can be. So I can't tell grown folks what to do, but I can encourage you to get a litmus test. And if you start to um, look at some of the patterns, they look at through the playlist, look at some of these quote unquote movements, right? Because sometimes you can have cults sprout off of social justice organizations, and also cult leaders can go through social organizations to catch the fallout, the people that want to go farther than the social organization and they really want to live it. So they'll usually stand by, whether it be at colleges, because those people of a legal age. See, these guys are very, very crafty. They know where they can go and pick up recruits, and this particular cult leader is very, very savvy. He takes his time to carefully mold and have sessions with each member to make sure that you are thoroughly programmed. It's amazing. It's amazing. And folks from the cult that screwed you over, that had you in isolation. There's so much that I haven't said that I'm not going to say at this point on the internet. Main thing is my safety. I don't want to see anything happen to the young people that are in these cults, but also understand a lot of times you're playing by the rules, and the cult member, as I've said before, will use children and women for credibility. And I call like a bulletproof vest to distract you, to tug at your heartstrings, and so that you won't apply a litmus test of critical thinking once you see mothers and once you see children. It's all quite crafty, so we've got to get sharper, and we've got to get smarter and sharper so we don't continue to allow ourselves to be manipulated. But any organization, there are cults out here right now. There are corporate cults for, a bunch of single professional women, XXC99 or whatever. There are numerous cults that will play to your desires if you're lonely, if you've had a life crisis, if you've had, a divorce, if you're on the outs with your mother or your father, if you've had a health diagnosis, and these people are just waiting. You don't need that many people. You can find some key people to be patrons to your cults, whether your gurus do it all the time. It's not to say there's nothing valuable in these organizations, because all these organizations can take elements of the truth and manipulate them and manipulate your fears. So it's up to us. It is your responsibility to cultivate critical thinking and not be afraid to ask questions because somebody's an elder of a church or an elder of this or an elder of that. Because quite often, they're not going to tell you the whole thing. It's like when, JWs come to the door. Most people don't know about shunning or ask about, the excommunication and that particular cult called shunning. If it wasn't for the internet, a lot of people's personal experiences of cults wouldn't be out there. So the education is out there for you to educate yourself. Quite often we don't want to see because we just don't want to believe that someone that looks like us could, or somebody eating raw fruits and vegetables or with locks or they're elder. These are how people are playing to you psychologically, to your emotions. You just don't want to believe that this person could be capable of doing something. But predators get old too. And, some of them are very, very savvy and they watch how the other ones are being taken out. So some of them are very laid back in the cut. The new ones are a little more cocky, but all of them are cocky and they don't have a conscience. So you're not dealing with the average person. They're extremely crafty and they put the women and the children out front. So all this to be said, use your critical thinking, your common sense. If somebody can't answer a question, they have to give you rhetoric and talk you in circles. That's signs that you're in a cult. So use your critical thinking. Don't be afraid to walk away from people. If you want to fit into something so bad so that your life can have purpose, and if somebody has to isolate you and tell you to go into isolation, that's signs that you're in a cult. Use your common sense. Use your common sense. Before any hoteps, chakras, third eyes, use your common sense. There's nothing more spiritual than using your common sense and also protecting yourself and inflicting a consequence. It's practical. It's responsible to yourself. It's accountability. And you deserve that. You're worthy. You're worthy of asking questions, even if it's uncomfortable. That might be the only thing that's really really going to save you and so that you can thrive. All right, folks, create a great rest of the day.